Okay, now we're going to continue going over the final. Remember, you can look at Google Classroom for your list of questions, like I just showed you, that could be on the test. Just a second. It's also, I basically typed what I hand wrote here, but your final's on Pearson Realize. It's on lines, parallel, perpendicular, and so forth. All that list that I showed you all, that I typed. Okay, so what we're on is number 21. Write the sentence that matches the conditional. We have 2x minus 8 equal 8 implies that 2x equals 16. So if it's like the implies part, that means you're going to put if in front and then the then in the back. And so that's going to be D. Don't take it one step further and say x is 8. That'd be wrong. It just says write it as a conditional. Remember, a conditional is P to Q. The converse is Q to P. The inverse is not P to not Q. And the contrapositive is not Q to not P. And remember, the biconditional is the if and only if. So that's just a reminder, because remember, the questions are not going to be identical to the review. They're just the same types. Like, I know there's some related to lines and parallel, and then you either put it in slope-intercept or point-slope based on the directions. So for 22, it says parallel. So our first step is find the original slope. And since it is parallel, the second slope has got to be the same thing. Remember, if it were perpendicular, you would have the opposite reciprocal. So then you just use your equation. Y minus y1 equal m times x minus x1. So y minus 7 equal negative 3 times x minus 4. So that would be the point slope form. But in the directions it says do slope intercept. And so that's more of the form y equal mx plus b. So we're going to want to distribute this. Y minus 7 equal negative 3x plus 12. Because negative 3 times negative 4 is positive 12. And then add 7. So y equal negative 3x plus 19. Any questions about that? Remember, on these, this is your review. You get a classwork grade for this, so make sure you show work on the ones that have a little bit more than just typing a number. This one was kind of like what was on your previous test. Two lines that are perpendicular to the same do not intersect. Show the counterexample for why that's not true in spherical. So here's like your two lines, and here's what we call the same line. And so that's A. Two lines that are perpendicular do not intersect. Well, they didn't. And then on this one, B, if two angles of one triangle are congruent to two of another, then the third angles are. That's the one right here that has the D that could be anything. These should look really familiar to what we've done recently. Then the third one is the thing that says there could be at most one right angle in the triangle. This one has 3, so that's B. Then you have your alternate interior, which it shows you is true for 1 and 2. This one is not corresponding. Remember, that would be same side interior. These would be alternate interior, not exterior. These would be alternate interior, not exterior. These are corresponding, so that'd be a choice. And these are same side interior, so that'd be a choice. So this has D and E. A lot of these questions look similar to your previous reviews and tests. The next one says identify the same side interior. 5 and 6 are same side interior, so we got it right off the bat. 1 and 4 would have been alternate interior. 6 and 8 would be alternate exterior. And 6 and 7 would be corresponding. So with our choice with the same side interior with 5 and 6, what I would do is I would darken the line that touches both 5 and 6, which is B. That's your transversal. And there's only one answer choice that has transversal B. And it's talking about lines D and E forming. Lines D and E form the angle with the B. Any questions? Again, this one should look familiar to your previous test. 2 equiangular triangles can have different ones. In Euclidean, it has to always be 60. So that's B. In spherical, it could be 61 each, or any other number, 90 each. But in Euclidean, it has to be 60 because equilateral and equiangular mean the same thing in Euclidean. If your angles are the same, your sides are the same, and they had to all be 60 degrees. So they're always 60. Don't choose the one about just adding up to 180 because that could be any random triangle in Euclidean. And you know for sure it can't always be 90. So anyway, just look through what we've done before. This one, it's talking about 1 and 3. Those are same side interior because they're between the lines. 4 and 3 are alternate because they're on opposite sides, and they're interior because they're between the lines. And 5 and 6 are corresponding because you're skipping angle 4. It's one exterior and the other interior, and not touching. So that's corresponding. So there's ones about your types of angles. Remember to study those. This one is one where you have to pretty much draw a picture. A perpendicular to B. I'm going to make A like that and B with a right angle because it says it's perpendicular. It also says B is perpendicular to C, so that means B is going to be this way and C is going to be this way because we have to have a right angle. It also says C is parallel to D, so it's got to just be like this, parallel. If you draw your picture, then you can kind of tell whether A is perpendicular to D or parallel. Based on the picture, it's got to be parallel. and then look for the reason. The difference is about this saying A is parallel to C, and this says A is perpendicular to C. And what we have in our case is parallel, so that means it's B. So 28 is B. Any questions? Okay, now here's one about a linear pair, and you need to remember that adds up to 180. Remember, if you'd like to make a note card, or if you want to, use your notes on your final, you can, just not the review. So this adds to 180, and so we're going to do this one plus this one equals 180. Five n and 2n add up to 7n, and 25 and 22 are 47. So we want to subtract 47 and get 133. And then divide by 7. 133 divided by 7 gives you 19. Don't put 19 degrees. What we need to do is substitute 19 into this expression. 5 times 19 plus 25. And 2 times 19 plus 22. If we did it right, whatever we get should add up to 180. They're not going to be the same. They're never the same on a linear pair unless they're both 90. But I bet we don't get that. These are going to be different numbers. So 5 times 19 plus 25 is 120. So you'd probably guess the other is 60. 2 times 19 plus 22 is 60. So you get 120 and 60. Any questions? Okay. On 30, write an equation for the line parallel to the one that contains C. So since it's parallel, you've got to use the same slope. Basically M1 equal M2. And you use this formula. This is your point slope formula. And it's y minus 6 equal 3/8 x minus 4. Again, this one wants it in slope-intercept form, and so we have to do a little bit more work. We've got to distribute this. Then we'll do 3/8 times 4. I get 3/2. I've already put my minus sign there. And then we add 6. So y equal 3/8 x plus, okay, so we've got negative 3/2 plus 6, which is 9/2. So that's your answer. Remember, if it said perpendicular, you'd have to flip it and change the sign, like negative 8/3, but then do the same thing. Any questions? Okay, then this says write the two conditional statements. Two angles are complementary if and only if their sum is 90. So basically, what I remember us doing is put a box around the if and only if, and this is going to be the if, and this is the then. If two angles are complementary, then their sum is 90, so that's one of our choices. And if the sum is 90, then the two angles are complementary. What you can look for is a couple of these have the word not in it, which throws it off. Okay, this one, your converse, inverse, and contrapositive. If you're in Mississippi, you're in the South. So that's basically P to Q because that's the original. The converse would be Q to P. So you basically reverse it. If you're in the South, then you're in Mississippi. And that's false. You can be in a different state and still be in the South. The inverse would be the not P to not Q. So not Mississippi, not South. So that's D. Not Mississippi, not South. And that's false. You could be in a different state, like Alabama, and still be in the South. So remember, those two are usually the same. The converse and the inverse have the same truth value. Because remember, it goes true, false, false, true. Usually. But remember, for a biconditional, that'd be all trues. Okay, so for the contrapositive, we have your not Q to not P. So that means not South, not Mississippi. And so that's B. And that'd be true. Any questions? Okay. Then there are some like this also. Find angle 1 and angle 2. So we know that 1 would be 81 by corresponding. Because you have 81, which is exterior, and angle 1 is interior. And then for this one, we've got to get 180 minus 81. So you get 99. And from these choices, what I'm looking at is the same side is the answer. And this says side side, which is not right. It's same side. So this is the correct one. Same side, like this. They're both on the left of the transversal. They're between L and M. So that's why it's same side. It's not side side. Any questions? Okay, then this one's about the law of detachment. If today is Monday, then I must go to school. Today's not Monday. This does not match this part, so it's not possible to make a conclusion because it doesn't match the hypothesis. So 34 is F. Has to match the hypothesis. If it said today is Monday, then you'd say, then I must go to school, which is B. But it didn't match. And again, the difference between A and F is A says match the conclusion, but we have to match the hypothesis, which is the front. Hypothesis, conclusion. So our hypothesis is in front. Any questions? Okay. This one's talking about a number line. They have RS is 5y plus 3, and they have ST is 2y plus 5, and they have RT is 12y minus 22. This is called the segment addition postulate, where you do RS plus ST equal to RT. So we're basically doing 5y plus 3 plus 2y plus 5 equal 12y minus 22. So this is our segment addition postulate. From there, we want to combine our like terms that are on the left. So you get 7y plus 8 equal 12y minus 22. Then subtract 7y. So you get 5y. And add 22. So you get 30 equal 5y. So y equals 6. Then plug in, so we got 5 times 6 plus 3 is 33. 2 times 6 plus 5, 12 plus 5 is 17. And this next one you should be able to get two different ways. If you plug in the y here, you got 12 times 6 minus 22. Which is 50. And the other way is to do 33 plus 17, and they add up to 50. So there are two different ways to get it, to make sure you did it right. Because basically you're doing, in this case, medium plus small equal large. Okay, then these are vertical angles, and I know you have vertical angles on your final. Basically, when they're vertical angles, set them equal to each other. X plus 96 equal 5x. Then solve it. I'm going to move the x term. So I get 96 equal 4x, and then divide. So 96 divided by 4 is 24. Don't put 24 degrees for both of these. This is one where you should get the same answer for both. So if you do 24 plus 96, you get 120. If you do 5 times 24, you get 120. So both of these are 120. Any questions? Okay, then these say rewrite in slope-intercept form if necessary, and then say whether the lines are parallel. What we normally do is to solve for y to figure out the slope. So we're going to move this 2x term over by subtracting and divide by 3. So we get the first one is negative 2/3. On the second one, we're going to move our 6x term over, so we get 3y equal negative 6x plus 6. And so then we get negative 6/3, which is negative 2x plus 2. There is an answer choice that says negative 2/3 and negative 2 for your slope. They're not equal, so they're not parallel. In other words, this one times that one does not give you negative 1 for perpendicular, and they're not identical for being parallel. So that's A. Okay, 38. So there are questions like this on the final too. You don't have to say what type angles they are, but in this case they're alternate interior. You basically need to know what to do on this, and you set them equal. You set these equal because they're on opposite sides. You can think both are acute, so set them equal. Don't add them to 180 for this type. So we say 2x minus 21 equal 95. So then you add your 21 and then divide. So this should give you 58. 116 divided by 2 is 58. Any questions? Okay, now on this one, I remember this one giving some people trouble before on the test. There are 3 different angles listed. 3 different angles listed, but 2 of them are equal. So those are the ones you're going to use. Don't use BOC. So don't use that for now. We will use it when we could do this part, but we basically have AOB equal to COD because they're marked as being equal, or you could just start writing your 4x minus 3 equal 2x plus 11. I know some people like added up all 3 of these to 180, but it doesn't make a straight line, so don't do that. Only use 2 at a time. This is your angle addition postulate. So you end up with 7. So for AOB, you get 4 times 7 minus 3, which is 25. For COD, you get 2 times 7 plus 11. 14 and 11 is also 25. And BOC is 7 times 7 plus 18. $67. So going back to what I was saying earlier, The angle addition postulate would be like angle AOB plus angle BOC equals angle AOC. So this one plus that one equal that whole thing. There's other examples, but I'm not going to write down those. Just this one and that one gives you that. Okay, the next one shows graphing the pair of lines and then finding the point of intersection. So remember, it's an XY ordered pair, so it's 4, -7. Kind of can do that without graphing it, as long as you remember X is first. And then Y equal -7 looks like this, and X equal +4 looks like this. So you know it's a right angle. It's not -7x + 4 or anything like that. It's a lot simpler. All you do is use those numbers and put the X answer first and the Y answer second. Okay, 41, determine whether it's always, sometimes, or never true, and this is about skew lines intersecting. So again, about lines. Skew cannot intersect because they're not on the same plane. Not on the same plane. And not parallel. So, if it's not on the same plane, there's no way it can intersect, so it's always true. So 41 is A. Always true. If it changed it and said perpendicular lines do not intersect, you'd say never true. I mean, just think through whatever words are in the problem. Alright, now this one says it's a straight angle going straight across, and so you got to do this one plus this one equal 180. So remember from the Math Excel, we've done different things. We've called it a linear pair. We've also called it a straight angle and adjacent. So those are equivalent. So you do 11x plus 5 plus 8x plus 4 equal 180. Remember that a linear pair has to add up to 180. Same thing with a straight line, straight angle. They have to add up to 180. So don't set those two equal. Combine your like terms, 11x and 8x, and you get 19x plus 9 equal 180. Then subtract 9 from both sides. So you get 171. Then 171 divided by 19 gives you 9. X equal 9. Don't put 9 degrees. You want to plug it in. So this would be 11 times 9 plus 5, and it should be 8 times 9 plus 4. Whatever you get should add up to 180. They're not going to be the same unless they're both 90, because it says linear pair. They're usually something different. So 99 plus 5 gives you 104. And 72 plus 4 gives you 76. And if you added those, you get 180. That's how you know you did it right. Any questions? Okay, now this one, some people got the right equations, but chose the wrong answers. The right equations are x equal 2 and y equal 4. But the first one they're asking for is the horizontal. So that'd be the y equal 4. Putting v above the x and h above the y equal 4. This is vertical, so it's x equal 2. Any questions? So vertical line would be the x, the horizontal line would be the y. So we have x equal 2 and y equal 4, and so just y equal 4 here and x equal 2 there. Okay, the next one's talking about the transitive property. So this one has two things that are the same. You can kind of cross out the top one. And the k's are in both. They're in the middle. So think about them crossing out, and you get x congruent to w. That's your transitive property. So remember, that's like if A equal B and B equals C, then A equals C. So it's kind of like that, except for it's congruent. So we just do congruent symbols like that. Okay, so this one tests to see if it's reversible. A hexagon has 6 sides, which is true. If a polygon has 6 sides, then it's a hexagon. That's also true. So since it's both true, then choose the one that has the if and only if, since it's true both ways. So that's C. Then for this one, just use your calculator like we did before. Go to list and spreadsheet, put X, and put Y, put -4 and -6, put -8 and -9. So then you go to statistics, stat calculations, linear and mx plus b, do your x and y, 0.5 and -6. So it does want a fraction, so we've got to say 1/2 x, and then we put -6. So 1/2 x minus 6. Then the last one we'll do today, find the coordinate of the midpoint. Remember, if it's a midpoint, that means middle. So you're basically going to do -5 plus 8 divided by 2. So your -5 plus 8 is 3. So you get 3/2. So 3/2 is your answer. There's only a few left, but we'll do those tomorrow.